The familiar story says markets decide, politicians manage, and citizens accept the consequences. That story is incomplete. The hidden lever is credit. Banks create money when they lend, and central banks guide where that credit goes. This mechanism helps determine whether an economy grows through productive investment or weakens through speculation and extraction. The West could see stronger growth due to its talent, capital, science, and infrastructure. However, broad-based progress is hindered by incorrect incentives, and most people aren't taught how these are established. When credit is directed toward factories, startups, infrastructure, and scientific work, societies gain strength. When it is pushed toward asset bubbles and short-term profit, the economy may look active while becoming fragile underneath. Professor Richard A. Werner's work matters here. He argues that banks create most new money through lending, and that central banks shape economic outcomes by guiding where credit goes. In his view, the standard equilibrium story misses how real economies actually work. If credit is the hidden plumbing of growth, then who directs it determines who gets rich, who gets stuck, and which industries survive. That is why history matters. Japan rebuilt rapidly after World War II by using directed credit and industrial coordination. China later adopted and expanded that approach, using it to build scale in manufacturing, infrastructure, AI, and advanced technology. Germany's post-war success also relied on disciplined finance and productive investment. Then the model began to break. Japan's growth strategy was weakened by policy shifts, financial deregulation, demographic aging, the zombie company problem, and outside pressure. Europe followed a different but related path. The ECB's one-size-fits-all monetary system reduced the ability of local banking systems to support local development. More than 6,000 banks have disappeared across Europe, and with them much of the local knowledge that once supported small firms and regional growth. The result is familiar: weaker small businesses, slower innovation, and more dependence on outside capital. Then comes the political effect. When people feel the pressure of stagnation, inflation, debt, and decline, they become easier to distract. Culture wars, media noise, and partisan theater absorb attention that should be focused on institutional design. That is how populations are made to vote against their own interests. The same pattern appears in geopolitics. Energy dependence reduces industrial autonomy. Supply chains become bargaining chips. Fear of conflict justifies more spending, more control, and less scrutiny. Germany's energy shock after Nord Stream was not just an energy story. It was an industrial story. Once cheap pipeline gas disappeared, the cost base of manufacturing changed overnight. Austria and parts of Eastern Europe, still linked to different supply routes, faced a very different reality. The message was simple: control the energy, control the industrial future. The same logic extends beyond Europe. Across the world, structural adjustment programs have often forced austerity, privatization, and export dependence on weaker economies. Commodity prices are frequently set far from the mines and farms that produce them. Trade mispricing and transfer pricing allow value to leave the countries that generated it. In practice, this can turn resource-rich nations into financial colonies without a single soldier being deployed. And now the same logic is entering AI. A small number of firms controls the leading models, the cloud infrastructure, and the data layers underneath modern work and communication. That means AI is not just a tool market. It is becoming a layer of power. The current hype around AI agents promises automation everywhere, but many systems are still unreliable, immature, and oversold. The deeper risk is centralization. If a few companies own the models that mediate commerce, labor, and information, they gain enormous leverage over the future. The regulatory response is also uneven. Europe has produced rules, but not enough competitive capacity. The result is a strange combination: heavy compliance for smaller players, while global incumbents still dominate model access, compute, and distribution. That is not governance by design. It is governance by delay. A better path exists. Use more open systems. Build local models. Fund domain-specific tools. Create real governance. Direct capital toward innovation instead of rent extraction. The same applies to finance. If credit is guided toward truly productive projects, biotech, quantum, cybersecurity, manufacturing, and new industrial platforms, economies can expand without relying on speculation, asset inflation, or debt theater. The lesson is simple. Credit shapes industry. Energy shapes sovereignty. AI shapes access. And when those levers are concentrated, the public loses influence while the appearance of choice remains. So the real question is not whether change is coming. It is who will control it. Potentialism offers a way forward, a system that rewards net beneficial value, reduces corruption, and directs credit toward real progress rather than extraction.